Drive Podcast.
Welcome back to the Outdoor Drive Podcast. Yet another week, and yet a very good week of that. This is a really good podcast. 197 with the boy, Mr. Tim Spike Davis. If you guys don't know him, he is the cartoon artist. I almost said cartoon character, but he's definitely a character and probably one of my favorites throughout social media. All the things that he does is a blessing. This is your boy East Coast Trev, and I'm joined with my good buddy Mr. Madman Mardick.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. I'm glad. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, any day. You can come back again next week when we do this all over again. So.
Well, one of these days you're going to change your mind on
yeah,
that.
well, no, probably not. It's not going to happen, but I'm going to, it's kind of weird. Turkey season's over. We haven't hunted in close to a week. We're dropping a ton of our YouTube videos over on the YouTube side of all of our hunting videos. The coyote night hunting with the 207 boys is about to drop. Some good stuff over there. It's nice to reminisce on the season, to be honest. It really is.
Yeah.
And that it's over. A little bit more sleep. Actually, I take that back because now I'm back fishing, so...
My truck's thankful right now. It's getting a little break.
I
beat the shit out of my truck this
Did you really?
season. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it happens.
I got some maintenance. Actually, funny story. I took it to the car wash the other day. It was still mudded up from Maine.
Yep.
And inside and out. And I take it to this car wash. It's only like $8 more than a regular car wash. And but they vacuum the inside. They wipe down the dashboard and everything and run it through the car wash.
Oh
man, I felt bad for those boys. Like I'm in line and I'm looking at all these other cars and they could use a car wash, but they're not that dirty. I'm like covered in mud inside and out, and I'm like, sorry guys. Like, kind of feel a little bad for you, but it came out looking good.
It happens.
Yeah.
So, whatever. It gives them something to do.
Yeah. Job security.
It looks good for you, right? Doesn't really matter. Until next hunting season, I guess.
Yeah.
You know
Give it
what I'm
a week.
saying? Yeah, right, exactly. Give it a week. It's coyote hunting season, and I know that itch has kind of been in. The needle's been pushed right into the old arm because you're ready to rock and roll in the coyote world after being with the 207 boys. So, let's get through the chores of the evening, and then we'll get on to our good buddy, Mr. Tim Davis. What do you think, man?
Sounds good.
All right. Let's break it down. Huntworthgear.com. The best camo. Get more for less with Huntworth. Very, very happy with the Huntworth camo throughout the season. It served us right. Hot, cold, it didn't really matter. It did what it needed to do.
Comfortable.
And it withstand a lot.
Yeah.
It withstood a lot, so that was good. And like you said, comfortable. What's better than that? Justin hunted in May in heat boost.
Well, Justin's a different breed. I don't recommend that.
No. I don't know how he was. Oh, he was dying the last day. Remember,
Yeah.
He came in and it was like 85
I tried to
degrees
warn him, but sometimes you just learn from
your mistakes. It is what it is. Nor'easter Game Calls, nor'eastergamecalls.com. The grunt tubes are in the work in progress. I did drop a little teaser on that on our social media pages. There is going to be a limited edition on the website, and probably 85% of them are going to be at Hunt Stock. We will be at Hunt Stock this year. I think that's the 10th, 11th, 12th up in Westminster, Mass. at the Wildwood Farm. So we'll be up there kind of hanging out. And as always, Bowhunters United, bowhuntersunited.com. The link is below for you guys to sign up there for the advocates of our bow hunting world. And what better time to break in for the News from Your Cruise with Mr. Mike Salter.
All right, guys, why don't we buckle up and see what's going on in the world of news with Mr. Mike Salter.
Hey everyone, we're going to kick this one off in Michigan, where the DNR is asking for help from anglers this season. The muskie season opened on June 3rd, and the DNR is asking muskie anglers to complete their online muskie angler survey. The DNR is looking to gather information about muskie angler demographics and catch data such as fish length, angler effort, and water bodies fished and methods used. The reports help the DNR gather information about relative abundance of muskies in the water body, size structure of the population, and whether the muskies are creating a fishery in those water bodies. Anglers are asked to fill out a report even if they do not catch a muskie, and anglers are asked to fill out a report for each fishing trip, as these reports help the DNR manage the species and improve fishing experiences. Now in Nebraska, where the Game and Parks Commission will consider recommendations for a 2024 mountain lion hunting season at its June 9th meeting. For the first time, a harvest season is being proposed outside the Pine Ridge. If approved, the Neoraba unit will be created, encompassing Parts of Brown, Cherry, Keapaka, Rock, and Sheridan counties. If approved, Season 1 in the units would take place January 2nd through the end of February. The season would end immediately if a unit reaches the annual limit or female sublimit is reached. The Pine Ridge limit would be 4 mountain lions with a sublimit of 2 females, and the Niaraba unit limit would be 2 mountain lions with a 1 female sublimit. Up to 320 permits would be issued for Pine Ridge and 160 for Niaraba. An auxiliary season would be held from March 16th through the end of March if limits and sublimits have not been reached. The Commission will also be considering changes to the river otter trapping season. One proposal would eliminate the overall season harvest limit and allow otters to be checked in 2 days after the close of the season and before the sale of transfer of the otters. The requirement for daily checking of season status would also be eliminated as well. Now to Colorado, where Parks and Wildlife is seeking public input on big game hunting regulation changes. A series of in-person open houses and town hall meetings are being held across the state, as well as virtual meetings. The meetings will allow the public to learn about the current big game season structure and the potential changes CWP is considering. The public meetings will cover alternatives regarding over-the-counter archery and rifle elk licenses, rifle season date structures, adding rifle deer opportunities to the first regular rifle season, and adding a second regular rifle buck and doe pronghorn season. Once all the public meetings have been held, CWP will be compiling the public input and making recommendations in the fall to be presented to the Commission next spring. This will form a foundation for policy in the years to come, and hunters should provide their input if they can. Now to Oklahoma, where a white-tailed deer in the Panhandle has tested positive for CWD. A Texas County landowner contacted the Department of Wildlife Conservation after witnessing a deer behaving abnormally. This marks the first case of CWD in wild deer in Oklahoma. The DWC, in response, has activated the next stage of the CWD response strategy with the Department of Ag, Food, and Forestry. The DWC will continue monitoring and will release more information, including ways hunters can help with detection and mitigation as hunting seasons approach. And additional guidelines or management plans will be distributed and will be advertised heavily if it is determined to be necessary. Now for a couple opportunities. First in Pennsylvania, where the Game Commission will be holding one-day junior game warden camps across the state this summer. These camps are open to youths 12 to 15, and campers will spend the day with game wardens, gaining insight into the job and the Game Commission's mission of managing the state's wildlife and habitats while promoting hunting and trapping. Campers will join wardens in light physical fitness activities and confidence-building exercises at hands-on stations. Campers will also learn about wildlife forensics and methods used to catch poachers and solve wildlife-related crimes, wildlife capture techniques, woodland tracking, and outdoor survival. The camps will run from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., and registration can be completed online at www.register-ed.com/programs/Pennsylvania/224-youth.camps. So check that out. Next to Michigan, where the Women on the Wing and Eaton County Pheasants Forever will be holding an all-female event on June 17th at 2 p.m. at the Capital Area Sportsman's League in Lansing. This event is for all those 16 and older and costs $40, which includes lunch and a 1-year Pheasants Forever membership. This event is for both beginners and seasoned shooters and will include trap, archery, rifle, and pellet gun shooting, and gun and outdoor equipment drawings. Lastly, back here to Connecticut, where we have a new state record common carp. Robert Jagiello caught the 45-pound 1-ounce carp from Lake Willenona on May 27th, which bests the previous record of 43 pounds 12 ounces taken by Mike Hudak in 2012. So congratulations to Robert on a great fish. Please don't forget to click on the Outdoor Drives affiliate link in the episode description and sign up for Bowhunters United today to protect and expand your bowhunting rights. As always, if you have any news to send along to me, we greatly appreciate it. Reach out to me at Mike Salter on Facebook or bearded_bowhunter21 on Instagram. And with that, enjoy the rest of your ride.
As always, Mike, we appreciate you, buddy, doing everything that you can and reminding us that there's a podcast once a week when he sends in the news. It's always great.
Thanks.
Steve, do you have a killer's corner?
Yeah,
I know
do.
that it's the end of the season, but there's still got to be good killers.
Just nobody can post that has an easy name to pronounce, unfortunately.
Oh, do we have a list of bad names to pronounce?
Yeah, I'm just going to say Tim P because I'm not even going to try this one.
Oh, good old Tim. We'll see him at Huntstock probably.
He finally found a turkey that wanted to play after getting his ass kicked all year. My man John Fellon with another coyote. You know this guy, so you can say his name. Jason
Oh,
Chwanek with a coyote.
That's Jitterbug, or we call him Jitterbug. Go ahead.
Jitterbug. And shout out Jitterbug. My man Christian Patrick, he's a newer hunter. He actually got his first deer this past fall, and then he followed it up with his first turkey this spring. So big shout out to him. And my old man, the OG, Mark Mardick, went up to Canada and smashed a spring bear. So happy for him.
I think we're going to try and get him on a Tales from a Tailgate, I think. What do you think?
We're going to have to try, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll do it, but we're going to have to try.
We'll get him on there.
All right. Is that all of them on the Killer's Corner?
And then, of course, don't forget about Saddle Up Saturday, June 24th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Wild Edge headquarters. Bunch of gear to try out if you're new or just trying to get into saddle hunting. Come hang out. Make sure you bring your bows because there's going to be some fun shooting going on with some steel targets and a chance to win some. I don't know what he's doing for giveaways, either gear or store credit or whatever.
Cool.
So bring your bow.
Awesome. Well, man, anything new and exciting? You've been out scouting or looking for coyotes or anything good there? Or?
A little bit here and there, not a whole lot. I just kind of been recovering from turkey season, and I got a bunch of truck maintenance I got to do, little things here or there, like a wheel bearing and stuff, and just kind of laying low the last week.
I will give a little fishing report because it's that time of the year and we're back fishing. Yeah, that's me.
Fishing and foraging with Trev.
Some may not. If you know, you know. If you know, you know, Hunter. It's been very good, progressively starting to pick up in some of the rivers, and even in the Sound, some of the areas of striped bass have been flourishing. I've had a couple of great guys who have joined me on the boat. We got a tagged fish the other day, which was pretty cool. Biggest fish that I've guided this year, 44 inches, 32 pounds. I talked to Mike, my boss from Real Cast Charters. They got a 32, a 35, and a 44 pounder today. So big fish are starting to move in. There is bait around in the rivers. So it's some good fishing. And you know, the porgies and all the smaller stuff is starting to show up. So it's strumming along to be a very good summer. So I've been blessed, and you know, I've been through the first week of guiding, so I'm excited.
What's
been kind of cool.
What causes that? Is it warmer waters earlier in the season, or
I don't even, you know, and everyone keeps saying that, like, you know, progressively throughout the year that, you know, it's been better, it's the best, it's early. I don't think that it's really early. I think that it might be a little bit early, but it's still on track as it always is. You know, it's yeah, the water temps and moons and pressures and so on and so forth are a big part, just like in hunting. It all needs to align for it to work because the bait comes up, the fish follow the bait, they're on that time schedule, they're on that memory, they're just going to the same places, doing the same things. So,
what about the new regs? Think that's helping?
I don't know, man. When they had kind of changed the regs before, I think it has helped. And we're seeing a lot better quality fish. And then now they've changed the regs to one fish, 28 to 31 inches. I think it'll help again because you're not killing that generation of fish. So definitely seeing better quality and more numbers. So we'll see what it does. It's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
You're going to see it 3, 4, 5 years down the road. And when they had changed it 28 to 35 inches, you started to see progressively more fish and better quality fish. And I think that this is going to do the same thing we'll see in 3 to 4 years, as long as they don't change those regs again, honestly. But, I mean, it's been in the terms of talk of, you know, completely closing striped bass season. You know, for me, being on the sport fishing side and not really the meat side anymore, I'm not against it. It is what it is, but guys still want to keep one for the freezer. So it may affect us in the long run, but to be honest, I mean, a lot of guys have gone down that catch and release side.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with that. But well, man, what do you think, dude? Should we get on Tim Spike Davis? You guys, it is a great podcast.
So when I think of Tim Spike Davis, I think of the Dos Equis guy in the outdoor industry. Like, he is the most interesting man in the outdoor industry.
Tim's
he really is, though.
Oh, absolutely. And everything he does, I mean, he's always trying to give back to the community and do things and move it forward.
and give it to whoever he can, some of the cool things that he does. And he's just the jack of all trades when it comes to the outdoor industry, and it's all oddball things, right? It's not like the cartoons, the lure making, the rat killing.
He didn't even talk about his feathers. Have you seen his feathers? He does the turkey feathers with like the paintings on them.
Mm-hmm. And we didn't talk about his primitive bows. I mean, we touched on it, but I mean, we didn't really talk on it all that much. So
I mean, I don't remember what the time was on this, but I mean, it was a little on the longer side, and we could have went a lot longer. We'll have to try to get him on another time and cover some more stuff.
Yeah,
he's got a ton to talk about.
Well, let's kick it off to Tim and see what he's got to say.
Do it up.
All right. Mike Davis, how are we, Tim?
I'm doing good. Finished a long day of work. Nice summer, getting ready to go out to Wyoming, so I'm looking forward to that, and I am blessed.
That's awesome. What is your normal day job? I know you're like the jack of all trades between all the crazy stuff that you do, but what is your actual day job?
So my actual day job is I work as an auto tech. I'm an ASC certified auto tech for a nonprofit organization in the inner city of Chicago. Been here for 37 years. And basically I work for this organization overseeing their fleet of vehicles. And it's one of those things when you work for a nonprofit, you show that you can fix one thing, then they're suddenly like, hey, you fix these washing machines. Could you fix this diesel truck? Could you fix this forklift? Could you. And so a lot of times if you have that initiative and a little bit of aptitude, suddenly you're a man in high demand. So I do that as my day job. And it's funny because, most people who know me and will know me through your podcast will know me for my cartoons I draw, my hunting and fishing cartoons. It's always funny because I'll have a editor or publisher write me and say, hey, we need this cartoon, in a couple hours, we're going to print. I'm like, I'm in the middle of dropping a transmission. So I'm going to have to come home, wash up, and draw that cartoon this evening. So you can't give me a couple hour time, So I think sometimes people think I just sit behind an art desk and draw cartoons all day, and that's not the case. It's just an evening thing. So
how did that all start for you becoming a cartoon artist? Because I don't think a lot of people will connect. I mean, some will, but some won't connect your art with who you actually are, Tim.
Oh yeah, no, it's actually a surprise when most people meet me, and then I tell them I draw cartoons. Their first look is surprise, and then when I show them a cartoon, they're even more surprised. And I don't know if they just thought I look like a Neanderthal and I was doing cave paintings or. Yeah, I don't look and I don't act like your average cartoonist because most of the professional cartoonists I meet have a college degree and are pencil necks and they wear collared shirts and never have dirty hands. And not saying that bad towards them, they're all probably better cartoonists than I am. But I grew up in a family of artists. My mom was an artist, my brother's an artist, but I was the cartoonist of the family, and it was kind of always laughed as the black sheep, of the family. It's always the kid who draws the cartoons, And I always had a love for cartoons. And about 2011, I had been coyote hunting for a couple of years up to that point, and getting my butt kicked by the coyotes in West Central Illinois. The organization I worked for had some property in West Central Illinois. And that's where I do a lot of my hunting. And I could not kill a coyote to save my life. And so a lot of times when I'd be on stand, I would just be thinking about what's going on with this coyote. Why isn't he showing up? And so I would draw cartoons. I was a big fan of The Far Side growing up as a kid. So I would draw little doodles of these coyotes. Well, I sent a couple of them. I had two I'd sent into the editor for Predator Extreme magazine, Mark Olis. And I just randomly sent them in. And I didn't expect him to write me back nothing. A week later, he's like, I love these. I want to run them. Can you come up with enough cartoon material for a year for our magazine? And I didn't tell him I'd only had two. But I said, sure. Yeah, I got plenty. I figured I'd just kind of bluff my way through it. And Mark Olis is really the unsung hero in my artistic, especially with the hunting community, because he was really one of the first people to ever really encourage me in my work and kind of give me some direction and help me out. And so I just started drawing cartoons from him. And right around that same time I started drawing cartoons from him, I actually got my first coyote. And that kind of led into a funny story about how at the time, and I don't know if many people, I'm sure most of your people who are predator hunters through your podcast would know there was a forum before social media called Predator Masters. And they, they encouraged you to post your picture and tell your story. So I did. I got my first coyote. I was so excited. Well, the crazy story about that first coyote is I shot him with a 12 gauge shotgun, double up buck at over 80 yards. And I walked it off probably 3, 4 times just to make sure. I was shocked that I actually killed this coyote. It wasn't the way the plan was going. I had a rifle on me, but he saw me move, and so I switched over to the shotgun real quick, and I dropped it. Well, I posted the story and the picture on Predator Master Forum, and no one was ugly or rude about it, but they were definitely a little bit suspicious of, did you mean 80 feet or 80 yards? Because 80 yards is a poke. And I was super embarrassed because I thought, well, man, my first story I post on Prayer Masters Forum, and I look like a big liar. I mean, people are going to just, from then on, people are going to be like, oh, yeah, that's that guy who kills coyotes at 80 yards. He's full of crap. And so that night I was kind of bummed. So I drew a cartoon of a coyote in heaven, a little robe on wings, and he's looking at God really bummed out. And he says to God, seriously, 80 yards with a shotgun. That's how I had to die. And I posted it on that same thread, and it instantly legitimized my story. And people have, since I posted that, never doubted it. And that humor really connected me with a lot of people in the hunting community. I mean, there's not too many people that I know of anyone who's drawing specifically coyote hunting cartoons. And so it gave me a connection. And at that same time, I started connecting with people in the hunting industry and hunting community. Uh, Tom Austin, went out and hunted with him in Utah, and just started getting knowing people through Facebook and social media and connect with people. And I found an interesting, bizarre occurrence that if you make somebody laugh, they're going to invite you to come hunt. And and it just has opened up a lot of doors with people I'd never normally. If I'd have told most people, I mean, you guys mentioned Joey Worth at one point earlier before we started recording. Joey and I are good friends, but I reached out to him years ago, and the minute he found out I was from Chicago, he kind of was a little standoffish. He wasn't, and I knew already that anyone in Illinois south of I-80, you tell them you're from Chicago, you might as well just be a pinko commie. They just do not like Chicagoans. And so same thing happened where Joey at the time was helping run a pizza restaurant, and I'd see some posts and stuff. So I drew a cartoon of a coyote running across the field with a box of pizza in his hands, bullets flying past him, and Joey thought that was the funniest thing he'd ever seen in his life. He's like, "Man, you come down and hunt with me anytime you want." And so, and it was an opening and then of course Joey and I got to know each other, and I hunt with him every year now, and we have a blast laughing, and it's a lot. We do a lot of killing, but it's a lot more just the storytelling, the joking, the laughing, cracking up with each other, and so it opened up these doors. Even with, and a lot of people laugh about this, is my relationship with the guys from MFK. Here I am, a Chicago boy, and Tori and those guys are deep South Arkansas, and I had watched enough of the Predator Masters forum and some YouTube stuff. I kind of got the idea that the MFK boys were the bad boys of the coyote hunting world, and but I love their videos because they blew all the myths about coyote hunting. Here these guys are out there in t-shirts and blue jeans sitting on a bucket, and up to that point I thought you had to have all the expensive camo and all this crazy stuff, and these guys are just getting it done with looking like they just jumped off a tractor and sitting on a bucket, and so I actually started one night. I can't remember what. I think it was on Facebook. There was a discussion about something, and I can't even. This happened so long ago, I can't remember what it was. But I had made a comment in the section, and I could tell one of the guys in the MFK crew didn't like my comment, and he kind of started provoking me. And I knew the MO here. I knew what had happened in the past with these guys. If you kind of you got on one of their bad sides, it's going to be a bad deal. And that's my whole family tree. I come from a whole Appalachian, West Virginia background, so I knew this ain't my first rodeo with this kind of people. But what I did was I drew a cartoon about what we were discussing, and I posted it on that thread. And I thought, if they get it, if they're smart, they'll get the cartoon, they'll laugh. If they don't, then I probably just can X out Arkansas as ever being a place I'm going to hunt. And so I did in good faith. I just put out this cartoon. I thought, here we go. And about 20, 30 minutes later, I get a message back on Facebook that says, "You pretty funny, city boy. You come on down and hunt with us in Arkansas anytime you want." And I was really surprised, but I said "Oh, so you can come kick my butt, or something," and just joking. "Oh man, that ain't nothing," they're, but I would start drawing cartoons about almost every video they put out has tons of cartoon material. I mean, Tori has the largest collection of personal cartoons of anyone in the United States, really anyone, because I'd watch a video, I'd be drawing cartoons, and I'd be mailing them to them. And Tori, after about a year or two, that Tori said, "Hey man, I really, want to let you know you're welcome anytime to come out here and hunt with us." And I'll be honest, did not know if the butt kicking was still on the table or not. And my wife, she's from Alabama, and she was like, look at this whole deal. She's like, "What you gonna do? You drive down there and they kick your ass." And I said, "Well, honey, if the coyote hunting is good, it'll be worth an ass kicking. I'll take it."
You and Tori about the same size, though. No, you could take them.
No. That dude can crush me with his left hand. But I think his wife and his daughter could probably beat me down pretty hard too. But well, and that's the thing is that it was so funny because once you get that bug in you about coyote hunting, you pretty much do anything. And I drove down there, and I honestly, I just did not know what I was getting into. I did not know if I'd be just turning around at the driveway and heading on back home or what. But I pulled up into Tori's place, and real hospitable, real friendly. And then he showed me into his lodge, and he'd never said nothing to me about it because I just assumed all these cartoons I was sending to him was probably going to sit in the file, or he'd look at them, throw them in the garbage or whatever. But I walk in, and one side of his lodge is all the framed cartoons I'd ever sent him.
That's
and
awesome.
He had them framed. And I was blown away, and he told me, he says, "Man, these mean a lot to me, and I always appreciate it every time you do something." So again, like I said, they laugh all the time. And they're like, "Man, if you'd have told us 5 years ago or 6 years ago you're gonna be buddies with a guy from Chicago, we've been like, you're out of your mind. Like, there ain't no way." And so the cartoon thing just opens up these random weird doors, and you make somebody laugh, and they want to connect, and so yeah, it's been quite a ride. And of course, with Tori and those guys, we always like to laugh because when it comes to coyote hunting and really any hunting, people assume because I draw cartoons about it and I do it that I'm like super good at it, and that I own like probably like 800 acres, and they don't realize I live in the inner city of Chicago, and I'm mediocre at best. And I mean, my main thing with hunting is I'm just persistent. I'm just not going to get discouraged, and I'm just going to keep at it. And you know, and really all failure just ends up turning into a cartoon. So that's the bonus for me.
It keeps the positivity for you, like it seems, because like if you don't get discouraged, you make a joke about it, you laugh about it, and then you just keep strumming on no matter what happens.
Yeah, and I think that's the key to life for all people is just to think about like the things in your life about what's going on, and don't get me wrong, there's days I'm glad I'm a cartoonist because I got days where it's like, oh my gosh, I was putting a car together today. I wanted to. There was no funny cartoons coming out of this car. You know, I was pretty ticked. Um, but you know, I think one of the things that I see a lot of guys who get into either hunting, and I talked about this with my buddy down at Wade down in Texas about you'll see guys who get into hunting, and I'm just using this as an example. This is really anything, sports, any kind of hobby or thing you get into. You see people who are getting into it, and it's plainly obvious it's not for the right intentions. You know, it's they're getting into it to be big man on campus. I got to prove that I'm better than everybody else. And to me, when I go out hunting, I got to be the better than I was yesterday. I don't care who else is. I already know. You know, Colt Minton, who part of the MFK guys. You know, when I watched his like 8-year-old son howl better than I'll ever be able to howl. You know, I was ready to throw all my howler reeds in the garbage. You know, I was like, but you know, that's that kid's gift. He's blessed to do that. You know, and I'm sure he looks at my cartoons and goes, man, I wish I could draw a cartoon like Tim Davis, you know? And so for me, I just have to accept what I'm good at and what I'm bad at. And if I can make some cartoons about it. And I think one of the biggest surprises for me and most everyone else is that I can draw a cartoon living in the inner city of Chicago that somebody who's grown up in rural America, it resonates with them somehow. And it's not like um, I'm still shocked myself too that it connects with people who I live very different worlds from.
And it's kind of funny because it's funny that you say that, because kind of how like you came across my personal radar was because we were talking about grunt tubes and you made a cartoon about the grunt tubes. Remember you wrote that one, and it's like it's so cool. It really, like you said, it resonates with you, and then you're like, he really was paying attention to what we had going on, and he made a cartoon about it, and you're like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool that somebody's paying attention and watching, and then thinking about it, and after makes a cartoon of it, and you're just like, this dude's the coolest dude ever.
Oh, well, thanks, man. And the funny thing is that actually happens not just in the hunting world. That happens all over in aspects of people I interact with in my life or I come across that live in different worlds than I do. So, you know, living in the inner city of Chicago, I've lived here for almost 38 years. And up until about 5-6 years ago, I really kept my distance from Chicago police officers. There's a very big boundary between Chicago police and just regular citizens. And I understand why now. I understand that they have to go through a lot of crap but crazy thing was about 5-6 years ago, my wife and I were looking for a new church to attend, and we were church shopping. We came to one we liked, and we started going to this church. We'll come to find out the pastor's a Chicago cop, and half the congregation are Chicago cops. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm surrounded by Chicago cops. And I started hearing some of the things that they were going through, like, you know, when we'd have like men's retreats or just sitting and talking. And so I started drawing cartoons about things that they had to go through, and they would look at me like, how did you know? Like suddenly I was humanizing them in a humorous way, and they were just shocked. And so it actually has opened up doors to the point now where I've got a buddy of mine who loves my cartoons, who's second in command of the Chicago Police Force. And I mean, never would have thought that would have been a thing. But again, you make somebody laugh, and suddenly they're giving you their cell phone number, like, "Hey, if you got any more, send them my way," and so it's just a bizarre. Again, for me, most people that know me, I'm a people person. I probably could have been like an ambassador or something, because I love meeting people, and I love meeting all people from all different walks of life, um, and all different people groups. So the cartooning thing just becomes almost a bridge, in that world. So
And that definitely true. As you watch your social media, I know the other day there was a young lady that you met while you were out fishing, and she was sitting at the bus stop, and you gave her a ride to work. Like, you can tell that
yeah,
you're that genuine type of person that goes out of their way to be around people and be good to people no matter what.
yeah, and again, it's one of those things for me. It comes so second nature, but in Chicago, of course, it's super foreign, and I understand why most people are pretty guarded. And but even like, so I'll give you an example. Like, in the neighborhood I live in Chicago is the most diverse neighborhood of all neighborhoods in Chicago. So there's more languages spoken. There's more different people from different people groups in this neighborhood. But the crazy thing is that no one talks to each other. They just all kind of mind their own business. And I'm that guy walking down the street smiling at people. Either people think I'm a nut job or a homeless guy wanting money or something. But I don't know if you saw the post, but the other day I was down at I live less than a mile from the Chicago lakefront, and there's a harbor not far from us where it has a lot of fish coming in at different times. And so I was down there fishing for perch, and I look over, and there's this kid who looks like he's probably about 8, 10 years old, and he looks like he's bored out of school with his mom. He's just hanging out there, but he's watching me intrigued. I don't think he'd ever look. You could tell he'd never been fishing before, and so I hooked into a fish, and I just turned and waved over him, and I didn't even know if he spoke English or anything. But I was like, I motioned for him to come, and he ran over and caught his first fish and smiles, and you know. Who doesn't like that? It's like made him, memory for this kid's mom's taking pictures, and so that's just a small act, simple little act that people can do. And again, like I said, for me, it's just, I don't know if this is the way I was raised or second nature, but I generally have a hard time not making friends wherever I go. I can pretty much make friends with anybody I connect. Unless you're just a total butthole, then I can make friends. I can make friends with pretty much anybody. So.
Which is really cool, especially living in the inner city. And you said that you were from West Virginia, so now you take those two things and you add them together, and that's what makes you who you are, where you are.
Yeah, and just a note, I'm actually my heritage is from West Virginia. I grew up in Colorado.
Oh,
But when I said from West Virginia, I've got a lot of Appalachian in me. I found out, and I know this is one of the things that people like to brag about, and I didn't ever want to say nothing about it until I found out for sure. But found out I was related to the Hatfields, which totally makes sense now, because I'm like, oh, this is why I'm like a grudge holding, angry person all the time, But they it's in the genes. But yeah, no. And again, it's one of those things. I mean, for me, I work for a nonprofit religious organization, so, and I'm born again Christian. So for me, it's one of those things where I look at every day like God's always just throwing these things at me that I would have never planned in my life. If I had sat down and written what I was going to do when I was a kid, it would never have come close as fun as what I'm doing right now. And like I said, meeting people and being able to do something as unique and original as being able to draw cartoons for the hunting community. Being able to connect with people, and even like the fishing lure thing. Funny little side story. I started making fishing lures a couple years back, custom lures, and these things take a lot of time. It's not like something you're going to buy at Cabela's, and I didn't do it for um, as a marketing thing. I did it just because I'm a creative guy who likes to do hobbies and stuff. And I recently had a guy who I buy auto parts from, and he reached out to me and said that he had a friend who knows a celebrity. I won't say who the guy is, but he's friends with this guy who's a celebrity, A-lister celebrity. And but the celebrity's really big into fishing. So my buddy was like, "Hey man, how much you make a lure, and we'll give it to this guy, and you might become famous." And I looked at my friend and I was like, uh, "I don't really care about that guy at all. Like I don't need him to endorse me for a lure." I said, "I'll make you a lure, and you can do with it whatever you want. You can give it to that A-lister if you want, or you can just keep it yourself." But I let the guy know, like, you're a lot more important to me than this celebrity I'll never meet. He'll probably take that lure and throw it in the back of his tackle box, or give it away to somebody, or lose it, snag it. So, um, but for me, it's more about just connecting with people, and you know, having one of the cool things, aspects about the cartooning thing beyond the publications has been really fun for me. Is I'll have people write me and they'll commission me and say, "Hey, I had a really cool hunting experience with my dad or my kid." A lot of them are humor based, like something silly or funny happened, and you guys probably have dozens and dozens of those stories. Well, they'll ask me to capture it in a drawing, and so these are things I'll sit down and I'll draw up and do the best execution of it as I can. And I mean, most people are ecstatic when they get them because it's just like it's something they can put in their man cave, and it's a reference point to a funny story and their hunting thing. And I tell most people when they ask me to do this, I tell them I'm not a caricature artist. I'm just a cartoonist. So if you look like a cartoon, I can draw you. But if you don't, it's going to be a little tough for me. So they but and I mean, I've had and again, like I said, with the Tory thing, of course he lets me come down there and hunt, so I just send him whatever he wants. But they he has the large. My wife would jokes with me all the time. She'd be like, "Is he going to run out of space, or is he ever going to get tired of getting these cartoons?" And I mean, he tells me all the time, like, people come down and just will walk the wall, just wanting to know, like, well, what's this one about? Or Tori gets to share and regale the stories, and so it's for me. Even we had one recently I sent to Tori Lynn, his wife, because the last time I was down there, Tori wanted a picture of us together with his grandson and a bow I had made that I gave to Tori. And Tori Lynn's down on one knee trying to hold a baby in one arm with a cell phone, and they have a giant, I don't know if it's a pyramid or some type of giant dog that is trying to crawl over Tori Lynn same time. And Tori keeps saying, "Is it in focus? Is it in focus?" And I'm like, it was so surreal. When I read through the cartoon, I didn't make anything up. It was literally a real. And Tori Lynn thinks it's the most hilarious thing. She's like, "This is the truest cartoon of my entire life." So, but if you get a chance to send those things to people, like, people love it. I mean, they just lose their mind. So it's again, uh, being a guy who lives in the inner city of Chicago, has given me a sense of validity in the hunting community. And open up a lot of doors I never 11 years ago, if you'd told me I was getting invites to Texas and Arkansas and Kentucky and California and Missouri, I never would have believed it.
So I want to go back on your lure making a little bit, because you do did I catch this right? But you do like a scavenger hunt for your lures?
Yeah, so I really last year, what happened was I started making these lures. And I mean, I've fished on and off all my life, but I really kind of got back into it. I started making these lures, and I went down to this harbor that's less than a mile from our house. And I actually was just throwing them in the water to test. Had my rod and reel. I was just testing them to see the action. I wasn't planning on catching fish. And it was early April. Cast out this lure, and I'm tracking it and watching it. And suddenly a coho salmon comes up and just smashes it. And I about messed my pants, and shocked that this fish bit onto this lure, and suddenly hit me like, whoa, why am I not fishing down here? And so I started fishing this harbor. And that's another cool aspect about this area I was telling you earlier. Like, this neighborhood, very diverse, but it's also, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of shootings. Yeah, it's crazy. It's Chicago. So, but if you walk less than a mile down to this harbor, the fishing community down there is super tight knit. They don't care as long as you got a fishing pole in your hand. You're one of the crew. Like I've been down there at 2 a.m. and felt totally completely safe. They don't care your race, your color, your background, nothing. Your language. Fishing is universal, and everyone's down there to help each other out and be a bud. And so I just started meeting all these wonderful people, and I'd show them some of my lures and stuff. Well, my wife and I came up with this idea we should do a little scavenger hunt where once a month we'll take a lure and I'll put it in a unused coffee cup with a cap on it, so it just looks like somebody drank their coffee and littered, sat it down. And what I'll do is I'll put the picture of the location of where we put it. We'll have a close-up picture, and then we'll have a pull-away picture. And anyone who's fished these areas, these harbors in Chicago, will know exactly that spot. Just like, when you see guys who black out areas when they're fishing when they're posting on forums or even hunting, you've seen those spots. Like I know exactly where that is. So, we started doing that in January, and we'd post it on the local Chicago Facebook forums. And I think people at first thought it was a hoax, like we'd be abducting bodies or something, like you get a lure and they get suddenly like trafficked, or something, like why is this guy, what's this guy up to,
The homeless
so the
guy
first
from
time
the
my wife
hood.
and I did it, exactly, there you go. They first time we did it, it took somebody 3 hours before they showed up and got the lure, and then we posted pictures of the person who got it, and then so people started seeing like, oh, this is a legit thing. The guy's still alive, and has his lure. And it was really cute too. I'm gonna brag on my wife because it's funny because my wife will join me on these, and we'll watch. My wife's hilarious on stakeout because we'll be sitting there watching, and she's laughing in the background here. So, but she'll be sitting there. She gets all jacked up. Like, oh, here it comes. Here it comes. There's that person. And they'll just walk them by. What's their problem? There's a lure. And of course, there's literally hundreds of people walking around. You don't know who's going to be the person. So, and it's exciting for us to see the person who's looking for the clue on their phone, and then suddenly run up and they grab the cup, and then we'll usually come over and introduce ourselves and get a picture. And well, the first time it was 3 hours. The next time it was 28 minutes.
Wow.
And we were sitting in a totally different location. This dude literally pulls up, laying rubber, and jumps out of his car and runs down this hill to this bench by the lakefront and grabs up the lure. And I had to run to go catch him just to get a picture. The next time it was 20 minutes. The third time it was 20 minutes. The fourth time it was 13 minutes. So people are kind of catching on, and it's kind of been a fun, exciting thing. And, people think I'm doing it as a marketing thing. And to be honest, I'm a horrible businessman. And it's not a marketing thing. It's just literally my way of saying, thank you for, I just feel blessed I live so close to an area where I can go down and go fish, and something exciting for Chicago and just people shooting at each other and corrupt politics. It's like, hey, there's somebody giving out something for free, So, it's for me, and I think any person in the sportsman's world knows, if you catch a fish or kill an animal with something that you've made yourself, because how I really got into hunting was I started making my own primitive bows and arrows. This is like 20 years ago. But and so that's like super rewarding to me. And if I can see somebody catch a fish on a lure I made, I'm pretty jacked up. So
I think that's so cool because not only, obviously you're not marketing it, but like it's a once in a lifetime lure and it's something custom. Like some of those big swim baits in the bass world are worth a lot of money. So like for them to find it and it's a lure that they may never have ever, they might not be able to afford it, or they might not be able to even get one or whatever. So it's a cool thing for them to be able to find it, and it's a cool scavenger hunt, and they get a nice reward out of it.
You can't go to the store and buy that lure. That's a one of a kind.
Yeah, and it's really cool because I can't remember which one it was. I think it was March. We'd set it up. My wife and I set it up somewhere, and see this car come rolling up, and this woman jumps out. Usually it's guys, but it's this little lady, and she's hightailing across the street to that cup, and I jump out and I'm trying to catch up with her, get a picture. I think she's thinking I'm coming for the lure, and she snatches that thing and trying to get back in her car and got under her jacket. And I'm like, no, I just want to take a picture. I want to make the lure. And she had been fishing with her son and down at the harbor, and her son looked at his phone and said, "Mom, he saw the clue." And so she actually threw her fishing pole down and jumped in the car and ran over and got it for him. And I said, "Man, you're the best mom of the year there, you know." And so it's just fun little stories like that. Like to me, I think they'll be able to tell a story like, "Hey, remember the time we were fishing and we found that clue and got that lure?" Like to me, that's something they'll be telling years from now. And
Hmm.
so those are the kind of positive things I like to leave my mark on.
Absolutely. That I think it's totally cool. Like it's every little aspect of everything that you do. It's just always giving back to the community constantly and constantly over and over again, man. It's so awesome. It really is. And to watch it through social media and unveil it's really cool.
Well, man, I appreciate it. Thank you. I hope that it's infectious. Like the main thing I want to do is come off like I just want people to know that anyone can do this. It's not like I'm anything special. I'm just a regular guy, and we all have gifts and talents, and there's just ways we can improve this world. And small acts. You don't have to do anything huge, and it's just again, like I said, I feel super blessed because I never would have written in this my own script.
Hmm. Absolutely. And along with all of these great things you do something very special. I definitely want to touch on before we close out the podcast is
Yeah.
this whole rat hunting thing. We watch you do this. I want to hear more about it and what it takes and kind of a little bit of how you've even gotten into doing this.
Yeah.
If you can break down that for us, that would be awesome.
Sure, absolutely. Well, it's one of those things again, totally unscripted. Never would have thought I would have been doing this. But basically, in our neighborhood where we live, they've been starting to do a lot of construction, tearing down old buildings. And about 7, 8 years ago, they just did a massive amount of tearing down a bunch of old, dilapidated buildings in our neighborhood. And they well, the problem was there was all these rats that had been living in those buildings that suddenly needed a new place to live. And my wife and I live in a 10-story building, and there's a basement in our building that has a laundromat and some food pantries and some offices down there. And well, these rats were just pouring in there. It was like something right out of the movies, and people didn't even want to go in their own basement. They were terrified, and so the building manager came to me and said, "Hey, man, I know you're a hunter. We're desperate. We've tried exterminators, we've tried poison and traps, and nothing's working. Could you see what you can do?" So, uh, being the hunter that I am, suddenly I was like, "Ting! Why have I not been doing this all along? Like, this is in my own house." So I borrowed a pellet rifle from a buddy of mine downstate. I was down hunting with him. I said, "Hey, man, you got like his one of the kids had one of those like Benjamin 10 pumps or something." And so my wife and I went in the basement one night, and she was my spotter, and we killed 15 rats. And it suddenly was so much fun. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm like hunting in my own house. And to think that some people just cannot wrap their mind around that I would literally go into a dark enclosed basement where I knew rats were. And now that I have thermal, I can turn the lights off. That's even more freaky to people. But and so when I very first started doing the rat hunting, this is about 7 years ago. Again, just like with coyote hunting, deer hunting, any of the other type of hunting I've done, I've made all the mistakes, and I still am. It's a learning curve and a learning game. Just watching how these animals behave. And most people who hear this will be like, "This is so stupid," they'll undermine. But they do not test. Scientists do not test rats for no reason. They are super freaking smart, and so even watching like behavior, like the more I studied, they're very much a pack animal in the way that there's a hierarchy. And so, like, I'll give you an example, and this is pretty just crazy when you see this stuff in real life. But I was hunting in a basement one time that was infested with rats, and you'll see what I call age classes. Like, you'll see So the type of rat I'm actually hunting is called the Norwegian rat, and it's the brown rat, and they'll eat everything from just regular food we eat to dog crap to wiring in your cars. Like they'll chew through everything, and that's why they've thrived is they can just process anything. And so the people will tell me all the time, I've seen one the size of a cat. I'm like, no, that was a possum. We do have possums in the city. They can't tell the difference between a possum and a rat. But the largest I've ever shot, and I've read up on this, and this is tracks scientifically, is 12 inches from nose to butt cheek. I'm not counting the tail. 12 inches to nose to butt cheek is a full on stud. I mean, this is the dude who is getting all the ladies, killing all the other rats. Like this is the dude, and rats are like freaking the porn stars of the animal kingdom. They're eating and having sex all day long. But I was totally blown away one time because I watched this rat. I was hunting this basement, and this rat somebody had set up those big old Victor traps and snap traps and big old mature class rat comes out and he's sniffing, checking out the trap, inspecting it, and then he backs off. And sure enough, here comes in a smaller rat, the dummy of the pack, and he runs over, eats that bait, gets his head crushed by the trap. Big rat comes back, eats the bait, then he eats his buddy, and they're complete cannibals. So there's smart rats, just like there's smart deer and dumb deer, and smart coyotes and dumb coyotes, and basically the word started spreading around. People started calling me, going, "Hey man, I got some rats in my basement, or I got some rats in my garden," and so I'd start posting pictures and videos. And what was intriguing to me is how buddies of mine who are out hunting bear and moose and white-tailed deer are waiting for that next rat video or that next rat picture or hunt, and I'm just laughing because it is just a rat in the inner city of Chicago. But and I've researched a lot of like the biological side of it. I've talked to a lot of people. There's a guy over in England I'm friends with who on Facebook that gives me a lot of amazing tips, stuff he's done. And then the craziest part about this whole story to me is companies have been watching this and they'll send me stuff. So a mutual friend of mine worked with a company called Umrex Air Rifles. They sent me an air rifle I would not be able to afford. And I mean, this thing, the 177 Gauntlet can, and with rats, you have to put a headshot on them because they're so tough. I shot a rat one time through both shoulder blades with a 22 caliber Gamma rifle, broke both its shoulders, and that thing ran down the alley on its face. I mean, it died eventually, but it went really far. So usually when I'm going for a rat, I want, especially the big ones, you got a headshot, and that the Umarex really is spot on.
How was the blood trail on that?
Yeah.
Tracking it down like a deer.
Absolutely, I've done that. I've had those situations where I'm like, because I got to have that trophy, I got to hold that fucker up, But so basically, then a big game changer was my buddy Wade Chandler, who works with Alley Outdoors. He texted me one day, and I had made a comment on social media at one point because people were asking me, like, "Hey, when are you gonna start hunting with thermal or infrared?" And I never want to pour mouth on Facebook because I've had people offer to. I had a guy one time said, "We're gonna what's it called? Go fund you a thermal." I was like, dude, no, don't go fund me nothing. I was like, go fund me is when I get cancer or so I need a new liver or something. But don't go fund me for hunting, because if you go fund me that much money, my wife's gonna have some other plans for that. I mean, she's supportive and loving, but if I tell her how much one of them thermal scopes go for, she's like, "Oh yeah, we got some dental work that needs to get done." So I didn't say nothing to the guy. I just said something like, when the guy made the comment on Facebook, I said something like, "Oh, it's really not in my wheelhouse at this moment." I just tried to downplay it. And the next thing I know, about a week later, Wade Chandler texts me and says, "Hey, we got a package coming to you. You're gonna have to sign for when it gets there." And I was like, companies will send me T-shirts and baseball caps and stickers and stuff. And I thought that's what they were doing. I was like, okay, cool. Well, a couple days later, my wife calls me and says, "Honey, there's a package here that costs $200 to mail." I said, "What?" And she's like, I said, "How big's that package?" She goes, "The size of a loaf of bread." And I mean, I got in the car, and no cars were getting repaired the rest of the day because I got in that car, drove home, and opened that thing up, and it was a Pulsar thermal scope. And I instantly texted Wade. I said, "I can't accept this because I can never. My car costs as much as this thermal scope, and I can't pay you for this." And he says, "No, we want to bless you with it, and talk to the company, and we're going to let you have that hunt rats in the dark." And I mean, dude, serious game changer, man. You get into a basement and turn the lights off, them rats don't even know you're there. And I started, of course, you can film them and stuff, and that's a whole deal. And there's a hilarious story where I had one of my first successful hunts, and I was trying to get the file from my phone onto Facebook, but it wouldn't accept it for some reason. So, and I'm just not tech savvy with that stuff. So, talked to a buddy of mine. It's like, well, you're gonna have to use this other app that will help you transfer that file, and once it gets on that app, it can get on Facebook. But what he didn't tell me was that when I was transferring that file, it recorded the audio of what was going on in the room while you were transferring the file. So so I got this rat hunt. Visually, you're watching a rat hunt, and I posted on Facebook. And about 10 minutes later, somebody writes on Facebook, "That's pretty funny about them yoga pants." What? I listened to the video. I watched the video. The visual is a rat hunt in the basement. The audio is my wife in our apartment 2 hours after the hunt. We're talking as I'm trying to download this file on the other end of the apartment. She's singing a praise and worship song. And she's sorting out the laundry, and she's like, "Honey, you see my yoga pants?" And I'm like, "What?" "The yoga pants with black and white stripes." Like, "No, honey, baby, I ain't seen those." And "Oh, that's okay. We'll find them." Like, we're having this full length conversation. A rat is getting its head blown off, and people thought this was legit. Like, I'd actually done this for real, and I was like, and of course, I instantly take it off Facebook because my wife is mega private. She doesn't do Facebook. She doesn't do social media. She just got an email address last year. And I told her, I said, "Honey, I just want to let you know if somebody mentions anything to you about yoga pants, this is what happened." And she was not happy at first, but I showed her the bit. I showed her the thing, and she thought it was the funniest thing she'd ever seen in her life. She's like, "We could have been saying a whole lot worse than yoga pants." But it's evolved. I mean, it's just been this crazy thing where people will call me, and it's really actually, back to just being helpful to people because it actually benefit. It's just like farmers who got problems with raccoons or any other type of nuisance animal. You're providing a service for somebody, and a lot of times exterminators in Chicago, they're limited to what they can do. And so legally and so they can only use certain types of traps. They can only use certain types of poisons or whatever. And to me, those older, those mature rats, they're smart enough to know to avoid all that stuff. And they're the ones that are breeding. They're the ones that are making all those other future rats. So if you can knock out a few of those out of the your area, you're actually solving a bigger if they just like coyotes and just like anything. I can eliminate rats from a certain area, but unless the landowner does something about why those rats were there in the first place, they'll be back. And it's a endless supply of hunting experience for me. And like I said, I think that most people they kind of dismiss it as like a goofy or a kid's way of hunting. But if you really get into getting a serious rat that has avoided all these other things in life, trying to get him within range for a shot is a lot trickier than most people think. So
That's crazy. Like listening to you talk about it, I'm thinking of like you're talking about,
Target buck or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember one time, I've been following you for years doing that. I remember one time you even busted out the trail cameras trying to pattern a rat.
So, and I was literally just about to mention that. I have a buddy of mine who works for Moultrie Cameras, and he sent me a Moultrie camera. And I got to tell you, it was the biggest blessing and the biggest curse at the same time, because the minute you see the rat, you give it a name, and then you're losing sleep at night. So I kid you not, in our basement of this building that I live in, there was this one rat, and I would set this trail camera up in this. We have a utility tunnel that runs from our building underneath the building to the underground utilities, the sewer system. That's where it's big time highway for these rats to get in. This utility tunnel is less than 3 foot by 3 foot, and it's about 40 yards pitch black into this building with pipes going through it and electrical. And I would set this trail camera at the one end, and I could watch how many rats were coming through and their size class. Well, this one showed up, and I mean, this dude was freaking huge. And I could just tell by the way he stood by the wall. And I could tell also another way is just saying, like, just how people do masks around like an antler for a deer, the base of their skull. The mass on a rat's tail right at its butt is a big tell on how big they are. So I nicknamed this rat Heisenberg after the character on Breaking Bad, because most rats, and just like most deer and cats, they have a pattern, daily pattern. And so what I would do is I would sprinkle out a little handful of bread crumbs. White bread is like crack cocaine to rats. And I would sprinkle it in front of this camera. And I would do this for a week. And what I would do is I'd pattern the rats to see when I could show up. Well, are they showing up at 9 at night? Or are they showing up 1 in the morning? Like, when is it they're coming? This Heisenberg rat would never be patterned. He'd show up at 1 in the afternoon, show up 2 in the night. He just never, I could never get a consistent pattern on this guy. And I would sit there for hours. I spent an ungodly amount of time waiting in this basement on him. And it was only him. I didn't want to shoot other rats. I was waiting just on this big Heisenberg.
Passing up all the little guys.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was like, it's a bunch of little bucks. I ain't worried about them. But I knew if I shot the little ones, Heisenberg would get that much wiser. So one night I was sitting down in this basement, and this guy came down to move some storage, and he saw me down there and goes, "Oh, man, dude, I'm sorry I'm messing up your hunting." And I said, "No, dude, you shouldn't mess this up, because this rat's smarter than me." And so he did his stuff, left, and after that guy left, I kid you not, I looked back up, and 30 seconds later, that rat was sitting right there. We were 40 feet away from each other, just staring at each other and motionless. And it's just like something right out of, you watch these hunting videos. I slowly moved up, got on the rifle, and when I shot him, it must have gone just slight. I was trying to do the headshot. It must have hit him right in the collarbone. And I mean, 22 caliber, flat nose pellet. It completely dropped him. And I'm like ecstatic. And I'm like, woo! I get up from my rifle, and he stands up. And I'm like, oh, hell no. And he starts dragging his body down this tunnel. And this is not a joke. I put on some leather gloves, and I dove right into that tunnel in the pitch black. And I belly crawled for 40 feet in the pitch black with my cell phone. And I was always just about a foot behind him. And I'm literally crawling across broken glass and old rusty nails. And I'm trying to hit his blood. And I'm trying to get this rat. And by the end, he finally died at the very end of the tunnel. And I had to back up with his carcass. And but that Heisenberg was like probably one of my biggest trophies, because I'd worked so hard. I should have had them mounted. That's what
I was
my
going to
big
ask.
regret.
At least get them
I should have had
Euroed.
that sucker mounted. But I'll send you guys some pics of it. But it's just they again, it's one of those things that like who would have thought a guy would get that jacked up? And I have friends of mine who call me all the time, like, man, I seen, I had two kids who were visiting from Switzerland. And, it's funny when you don't realize how good you have it here in America until you meet people from other countries. And these kids ain't never shot a air rifle. They ain't never, I don't know what they do in Switzerland, but it sounds pretty boring to me. But these kids were excited. I mean, they thought they were on African safari when I told them we're going to do some rat hunting. And we set up in this one spot, and it worked out like clockwork because I had been baiting this one area for about a week. And the first kid shot this rat that was up there in the 12-inch class. And when you see the picture of him holding it, I mean, he'll be showing this to his grandkids. I mean, he's going to be telling about going to America and shooting an American rat. And but it's just again, like I said, for me, I just laugh. I think it's funny because I would never have scripted this, and it seems like my life is just always this endless amount of surprises and blessings, and I hope to keep doing it and enjoying meeting people and making people laugh. So
I think it's absolutely hilarious. He's down hunting public. The guy comes in, sorry, ruined your hunt.
yeah, exactly. I think you can take this when you were talking about the mulching thing, the funny thing is I should send you guys a picture if I can find it. I took an old like tin can that I don't know what the number size is, but it's like the ones that the soups come in.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually in my shop made a mock version of a bait feeder, like a suspended with the Moultrie logo on it for rats. Basically, it's a joke, And I've even done that with years ago. I was looking down at I was in church taking communion one time and looked down at the empty cup and I said, man, it looks a lot like one of the original Fox Pro calls, like the horn call.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually, in my shop, sat there one afternoon, was waiting on some parts, and made a miniature version of I forgot what it's the old horn. I can't remember what the number was on it, but it's one of the original Fox Pro calls. And sometimes while she's on those rats, I'll place that little Fox protocol right next to it and pretend like I call. And people will actually think like, did he call in a rat on a Fox Pro? And it's just a joke. And of course, Mike and Steve think it's the most hilarious thing in the world, But but again, like I said, it's just you can take that and run with it as far as like with. But most of that stuff is funny as it is, like you're saying, hunting public and naming a buck or naming a rat. These are all real things that people go through, and I don't know what it's like to hunt rats in a rural area, like because I'll hear guys talking about hunting farm areas, or Wade's even told me about hunting pack rats in West Texas. But I'm sure that a rat's a rat, but there is the environment that they're in, they're going to act differently slightly. And so in the Chicago area, it's just they have an endless supply of food. And I ain't met no one yet who's not happy that I'm doing this, because people, they get up in your cars and they chew on your, in the wintertime, they'll get up and sit on your engine block and for the heat. And I've even done something. Now, this is something that so there's situations where I'll get in and I can't actually use an air rifle, like it just be too obvious. And I don't want anyone I would never want to scare somebody, or I wouldn't want somebody to think I was an actual threat to public safety. So sometimes I have to read a situation and I'll have to use another alternative method. A few years back, I started getting into using Conibear 110 traps.
Mm-hmm.
People use for muskrat.
Yeah.
And I modify them and I make a tripwire on it. And so I started doing a thing where I call, some people will do a deer drive.
Mm-hmm.
I do a rat drive. And so there's an alley behind their house, and I can't set up in this alley without scaring the crap out of everyone. So what I'll do is there's this one area or a neighbor, they've got this building right behind us. They got this vent, an old vent that these rats get up into and during the day, and at night they'll come looking out and they'll crawl down the wall into these dumpsters. Well, what I'll do is so rats, another thing that you study their behavior, you can pattern them. Rats will prefer to run against a wall, I guess, like a cover, and they prefer to be in the dark. So if you can know those two things, you can pretty much determine where they're going to run or where they're going to hide. And so I would watch these rats come out of this vent and get down, run along this wall. So what I did is I took an old box and I set it up as almost like a pinch point and left about a 5-inch gap between the box and the building. And that's where I put that conibear trap. Then I'd sit back and wait. And I'd wait. And about 10 minutes later, that rat come out. He'd start crawling down the wall. I'd run out as fast as I could. And he'd jump off the wall and run down the alley away from me. Well, of course, where he'd run is right down that wall into that pinch point. And boom, he'd get drilled by that conibear trap. And, I mean, you can do that all night long. It was the funnest thing I'd ever, it was just hilarious. Never had to use a rifle. Just conibear trap and just set it up, chase rats down the alley. And if anyone saw me, they'd probably think I was a drug addict or out of my mind or something, but here you are. Catching rats, doing a rat drive. I don't know too many people in this world who get a chance to do rat drives. But
So it's funny that you talk about the conibear. So I kind of got the idea from you, and here I used to work in the off season when I'm not fishing. I would work in a butcher shop, and we would have rats that would come in there. So after seeing what you were doing with 110s, I started doing the same thing with 110s, and I'd leave them out. Same thing, pinch points underneath doors, be where they would go to the hides. You just put them in these little tiny areas, and you knew that they would be in there, and then we would dine it. I didn't know that they were rat drives, but now that you talk about them, we would do the same thing. You'd go into one room where you know that the burrows were, and they would be out inside that area trying to get into those hides, and I would open the door, and then I knew they would go out this one area, so I'd have a 110 right underneath there in that little tiny area, and I'd push them right out there, and same thing, snap them right in the 110s constantly.
Oh, yeah.
And I learned that from you.
Yeah. And again, like I said, it's on a biological level. If you can kind of understand what their nature is, sure, there's always going to be one that's going to break the rules or whatever. But you can, for the most part, set up things, and it's funny because, like I said, you get a reputation too. Because about 6 months ago, my shop is right next to a sheet metal and roofing supply business, and they all know me in there. And I was actually over there one time in their lunchroom, and one of the office guys comes into me in the lunchroom and says, "We need your help." And they had an office cubicle area, an enclosed one that had about 5 desks in there. Salespeople rep had a giant rat in it. And I mean, they're acting like they need to call 911. They're freaking out, and everyone's vacating the area. And so I just said, okay, yeah, I'll go in. I said, just don't open the door while I'm in there, because what happens is you open that door, the rat's going to come running out. So just keep the door closed. Well, I didn't know this. I didn't realize at the moment was one half of the office area had windows into this other larger area, lobby of this thing. Well, there was like 20 people watching me. And basically, I could instantly tell where I knew the rat would be living because it was a corner where they had some sample supplies. So I just slowly started pulling stuff out, and I kind of started making a barricade of where I knew he'd have to run. And sure enough, about halfway through that pile, that rat burst out, and he tried to bolt past me, and I have a pair of steel-toed work boots. And I mean, I stomped this thing's head in, and suddenly I hear all these people screaming. There's people videotaping it. People were screaming, and I mean, of course, they thought I was either half psycho or like a superhero, because like most people would not even want to be in that room, let alone actually stomp on a full-grown rat. But they all were really grateful that I was there. So
he's the rat
killer. Yeah, and and it's like I said, it's just one of those things where I mean, I've had guys, friends of mine who were police officers that they find this out and they're like terrified that I would actually go into a basement. And I'm like, these things aren't shooting at me. Like, these guys are guys who are patrolling the west side of Chicago, and they think I got bigger kahunas than them because I'm going into a basement with rats. And I'm like, well, these rats ain't shooting back at me. But I mean, I've had them actually crawl on me because if you don't move, they don't know what you are.
Right.
They just think you're a box. It's just like deer hunting, all this stuff. I mean, I think a lot of the deer hunting and coyote hunting really prepared me for a lot of the rat stuff because, again, it's just a biological animal, just like the rest of them. You just got to figure out what makes them tick, and it's a lot of freaking fun. So
That's crazy.
You know, your next move might have to be, Tim, is you might have to get yourself a saddle. Because apparently that'll increase your success rate with killing. You can go down in the basement and hang off one of the columns.
oh, okay, there you go. Okay.
Set up tree stands now.
Guaranteed to kill more.
Well, I did a running joke as like I did a fake commercial, like an infomercial where I was selling a product called Cheddar Flage, and it was a scent control, but really it was just cheese wit, is that cheese stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll see if I can try to find it and send you guys. But I do a whole infomercial where if you want really to be a successful rat hunter, you got to buy Cheddar Flage, cover your scent, and it's also a face camouflage. So I have this stuff all over my face by the end of the commercial, and I have a buddy of mine as a video editor help me out with it. But, and yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that you can totally make a mockery of it and go kind of make fun of the whole, even the whole hunting community because of the crazy stuff people are willing to do to get that rat. It's like, you want that rat of a lifetime? Well, you're going to have to, like you said, a saddle or, you come up with all kind of crazy stuff.
Cheddar whiz.
Cheddar flog. But,
Cheddar flog.
Yeah, and, they, I mean, I've even had exterminator guys coming to me and, like, again, like I said, they're jealous of me because they're limited to what they can do. And they're appreciative because, of course, I make them look good because if I show up at the same spot, they're doing their job. If I get rid of the big producers, the baby producers, the full-size rats, then their customers see less rats, and so it just makes the exterminators look good, and I'm fine with that. Laying in the shadows, being the secret guy, but they and it also opens up, like, I've shot them with slingshot. I bought one of Tim Wells's blow guns, those blow dart guns.
Yep.
And I've tried it. They're freaking fast. I mean, and I'm sure I just got to keep practicing at it. But I've tried to blow dart them, and by the time that dart reaches them, they're already halfway back to their holes. So I just got to get better on that technique. But
that's awesome. I love it. I love that you have so many cool things going on, especially the rats. The rats just totally intrigue me with everything. I think it's just the coolest thing ever.
Well, thanks, man. Like I said, it wasn't something, I tell most people anything significant I've done in my life, whether it's something creative or just even the stuff in my life that I feel real proud of. It's nothing I've ever done that I sat down and it's just stuff that fell into my lap, and, like I said, even with stuff involved here in our community and stuff, this organization I work with, I just, again, I'm kind of a guy that has I had a friend of mine years ago give me a hard time for not having a 10-year plan, and I said, dude, I don't even have a 10-minute plan. I don't even know what's happening in 10 minutes from now. But I just feel blessed because I wake up every day and some new adventure and meeting new people and connecting with people and making people laugh and killing their rats, and it's pretty awesome. So.
That is really cool. Tim, I have one last question for you before we let you go here, and that is, we ask everybody this. Tim, what drives you outdoors?
That's a very interesting question because I could probably answer about 10 things, but for me, it's, I mean, obviously it's connecting with nature, but the hunting aspect about it is I really believe the more and more I do it that it's just I'm doing something that my ancestors have done for 10,000 years or even longer, and it's so much a part of our DNA as human beings that um, it's. I don't want to sound like trippy when I say this, but it's like I'm unlocking something that I knew was never really. Growing up in I didn't grow up in a hunting family, and I grew up in the city in Colorado, and it wasn't until I came to Chicago that I got into hunting and fishing. Um, but it's like I feel like I'm unlocking something that's been part of my DNA for 10,000 years, and the more I do it, it's just I feel more connected with myself, with nature, and it always pushes me to another level of trying to be a betterment of who I am. And so, yeah, I think that it's in everybody. We're literally doing this podcast because a bunch of people in our ancestral lineage was good at providing food
Mm-hmm.
for us, and so just due to the way society has gone through the last 100 years, we've moved more and more away from that. But we're literally where we're at right now because someone in our family DNA was really good at hunting, fishing, getting food, and so I think it's a super part of us. And for me, I just it's that challenge. It's that just living out what's already written in our DNA.
Absolutely. Tim, I absolutely love it. I love everything that you're doing. I love watching you on social media. I think it's absolutely amazing. I hope you keep doing what you're doing. One last thing. Where can everybody find you? Do you have like a website? Do you have a certain social media you like to have everybody watch? Or
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook, Tim Spike Davis on Facebook, Instagram. Um, And I do have a website, but it's pretty just stale. I have a buddy of mine who helps me out with it, but it's I don't really keep up with it. But I do have just a little plug here. I have a hunting book I put out a couple years ago. It's about 200 pages of almost 400 of my favorite hunting cartoons, and it's available on Amazon. You can look at Tim Spike Davis or Scattered Thoughts Cartoons. And it's available on Amazon. If you like hunting and you like cartoons, it's the book for you. And a lot of time went into it just to make sure people got stuff that they thought was funny, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback from it. And again, like I said, I love meeting people. I love connecting with people. Ideally, I would have thought it would have been great to do this book and go take it to shows and meet people that way. That was the vision. But just the way our world's gone in the last few years, it doesn't seem to be super possible, but still holding out. So if you like my work and what I'm doing, let's go hunting together.
absolutely, Tim, and I'll put that link below just so everyone can kind of go there and look at it and buy one if they choose to do so. So we'll keep that there. Tim, we appreciate you jumping on, man. I don't think it'll be the last time that we hear your voice here on the Outdoor Drive. We thank you for jumping on and doing this with us.
Thank you so much, man.
Absolutely. And for everyone else, thanks for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.